Well, hello and welcome to this Step 2 Pathway session entitled Building Employability Skills. Brendan Lally here from the UL Career Service again. So for the next 20-30 minutes, we're just going to go through a short agenda here in relation to building employability skills. The word employability, it's a word we use quite often in the Career Service, but I realise it can be a little bit more jargon that you have to contend with, so I want to clear up that early here. Secondly, if you've ever wondered, does a template exist for graduate employability success? There's a model I want to introduce to you which incorporates something called the Career Edge, and we'll go through that in a moment. We'll get some clarity around the skills that employers are looking for, just so you know what they are. Quick look at researching postgrad options, and finally show you how exactly one goes about building employability skills that will ensure success for your first graduate job and indeed for many jobs to come after that. So let's have a look at this word employability. What do you think it means? The ability to gain employment, maybe your first graduate job, and the answer is yes and no. It's a lot more complex than that. On occasion, we would have students maybe come to the Career Service and they're not performing well in the graduate recruitment processes. They'll ask a question, is it my CV? Can you take a look at my CV? Is it my interview? Can we relook at interviews? And what I want to show you today is, look, it's a lot more complex. There's a lot going on in relation to who succeeds and who does not succeed. And it's all centers around employability. Okay, so let's have a closer look at that. So let's give an official definition. It's more than simply getting a job. There is numerous definitions of employability, but for today's session, we're going to define it as follows. It's having the set of skills, knowledge, and understanding, personal attributes. This is important. Personal attributes that make a person more likely to choose and secure occupations in which they can be satisfied and successful. Okay, so we know employability is a lot more than the skills you gained in the classroom. If you want to really distill it down, you could say employability is future-proofing your career. And in essence, employability equals security. Okay, here's a lovely, colourful picture of some healthy ingredients, perhaps that we would put in a NutriBullet to make that healthy shake so we can all feel healthy and take responsibility for our health. Similarly, there is a reason for this photo. I am trying to make an analogy in relation to graduate employability, and I'm going to show you on the next slide the ingredients on paper, the secret formula for graduate employability success. It was developed in the University of Lancashire. It's probably the most widely used research piece in the world we work in the Career Service. So here it is. This is the template for the Career Edge model of graduate employability. I know it's fairly busy. There's a lot going on here, but just stick with me for about 4 or 5 minutes and let me just explain this. This, in essence, is the blueprint for those that thrive in the graduate employment market and indeed throughout their career. So remember, employability, it's not just about the degree. There's a lot more. Okay, these are the components. And I might just go through each and every. This is an acronym here, the EDGE acronym. We look at that in the next slide. So first block here is career development, learning. This is what you're doing on pathways. You do need to kind of understand how the market works, how the recruitment processes work, how to brand yourself, etc. Okay. Coupled with that, you need some work and life experience. Now that work experience may be related to your course of study, but it doesn't have to be. There is what's called transferable skills, and we believe in the Career Service that almost every skill can be transferred into a role that is related to your world of work. So whether you're working in retail, working in a restaurant, etc., all of those are transferable. And not to forget life skills. So the broader life skills and the broader life experience you have, which includes travel, etc., That in itself broadens your horizons. You have greater understanding of cultural differences, different geographic areas, different economies. That plays a part in relation to you being successful in a company later on. Then in the middle here, you have your degree. Okay, so this is your academic study, your degree subject, which you will gain knowledge, skills, and an understanding. Then here is something called generic skills. So these could be general skills, and we'll look at those in a moment. I just want to touch on the final one and be clear that we understand there's a lot in the media about emotional intelligence. So I might just give a definition of that, and the most widely known, it comes from a man called Coleman, and he says it's the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationship. So once more, it's the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationship. Okay, so you work on all of these components. Okay, so presuming you do, it is important then that you reflect and evaluate. Okay, so through the pathways, you're going to touch on some of these components, and you will do a reflective report, and that's very, very important to have some insights into your strengths and areas that you are confident about, and where gaps lie. By doing this work equally for each of the components, you will grow your self-confidence and self-efficacy. That's not a word we use every day. So what does that mean? It's the right, being able to have the right behavior at the right time. Okay, so that's comes from, I guess, maturity for all of us. That plays well in the work area. All of this then grows your self-esteem and your confidence that goes and rolls into employability. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And we look now at the career edge model. It's just a helpful model for yourself to know that you're on track, I suppose, for success post-graduation. We'll take a look at that now. So here is the career edge acronym. This is a nice bite-sized way to just remember everything that we talked about in the slide prior. So the work you're doing in pathways will fall into the career piece, the career development. Okay, your understanding of the market, branding, yourself, etc., the different recruitment processes. Then you'll couple that with your work, gaining work and life experiences. Working hard at your degree, obviously employers, that's all they have to go with at the end of the day, what marks you got. So whether you have a high work ethic, that's very, very important. Your general life skills and personality skills, I'm going to look at that in a bit more depth on the next slide, so don't worry about that. And we did then talk and give an explanation of what emotional intelligence is. So that is something that I would keep in mind for your final year as a template for success. All right, let's have a look at the skills employers are looking for. And we're going to use the career edge model again, continuously use that, and that should be a template for you as you go into your final year. So employers are looking for experience in work and life. From that experience, they're looking at skills that include, and this is not an exhaustive list, but they include leadership. So that's basically mean times when you took responsibility to get things done. That can be in the employment, that can be in sport, that could be in volunteering, but you literally took on responsibility and ownership to get things done. Team working, a very common one in graduate interviews. That means working well with colleagues and being able to listen. Okay, so you need to have experience of this in working with different people and different personality types. And then interpersonal skills, being good with people from a wide range of backgrounds, as I mentioned, and being able to put your ideas over easily. Okay, some buzzwords that relate to these skills that you will hear on job descriptions in the market are dynamic, motivated, supportive, facilitator, and being professionally, socially aware. Okay, so let's look at the skills gained from degree subject knowledge. So they can include IT skills. Even if you're not doing an IT course, the expectation from employers is that you would have very sharp IT skills. And this summer could be an opportunity to upskill in that area, even the basics like being very proficient at Excel. Technical skills gained from your degree might depend on the topic that you're studying, accountancy, journalism, etc. And then business understanding, knowing what makes a company tick. So we very often, when I did graduate interviews myself, I would ask the graduate to tell me about what they know about the company. 9 out of 10 times I would get the first paragraph from our website, the About Us section, that they would learn off. If you're studying accountancy, if you're studying HR, etc., you need to understand the market, not just the subject, the degree topic, but what's really happening, what's current, what's the current challenges, etc., before you go into any graduate interview. And again, the words you'll see in job descriptions are task orientated, professional skills, entrepreneurial, or competitive. Okay, so let's look at the final two parts to the career edge model, and we're looking at generic skills. So these can include problem solving, being practical and quick-witted to get your results, showing commitment, being dependable, trustworthy, putting everything into your work. Employers will be looking for examples of that in interviews. Flexibility, being adaptable, maybe in a part-time job, but willing to do extra work or different types of work. Very often on graduate job descriptions, you'll see results orientated, dedicated, graduate, multi-skilled, etc. And then the final piece here of the career edge model, which is emotional intelligence. And you would have touched on a lot of this, particularly the self-awareness piece in the first step of Pathways when you did team-focused assessments in relation to your own values and personality preferences. So knowing yourself helps to feel confident about yourself and what you can do, and you can obviously communicate that to a prospective employer. Resourcefulness, so having drive, using initiative and planning ahead. And finally, networking skills, being good at linking up with other people and help each other out. And that would be one that you might use as an example of a project in college where you got it over the line by bringing people together. And on the job description, you'll often see words like being a focused graduate, a self-starter, an initiator, or a relationship builder. Okay, so that's looking at the skills employers are looking for in a lot more detail. In relation to your own discipline, the next slide, we're just going to give you some tools and some guidance in relation to finding out what are the skills that the employers are looking for from your actual program. Okay, so a little tip to do on your laptop is, rather than wait for final year, go online now. These websites are excellent in relation to finding roles related to your discipline. I would copy and paste some job descriptions and look at the skills, look at the required part of the job description, and just do an inventory for yourself, a personal inventory, and say, okay, these are, I've looked at X, I've looked at 10 potential roles for graduates from my discipline, okay, and I have them in a folder on my laptop. Now I'm going to just forensically go through all the skills that they keep on mentioning and maybe just do a top 10 or a top 5. And now I'm going to look at my, I suppose, my life activities, my part-time work, any other experience, and see what am I missing, what am I strong in, and what areas or gaps do I need to fill. As I said in the last slide, I mentioned doing a personal inventory in relation to the typical skills employers are looking for in graduate jobs for your discipline. If you identify from doing that research of job descriptions certain skills that mightn't be covered maybe in your program can't cover absolutely everything. There might be some skills that are not covered in your program. Now is the time to look. Maybe you could just do a short online course to fill that gap. And there's courses here. Some of them you need to pay. Alison, Coursera there has hundreds of free courses. Fetchcourses.ie has courses in Microsoft Specialist, Advanced Excel, etc., and graphic design, depending on what you think you will need. Certainly, for most jobs, I would recommend having experience in Excel. Solace, ecollege.ie, all these courses are free, and digital course there, more courses online for free. So hopefully you'll take a look at those and make some choices and upskill, use the time to the best of your ability. If a postgrad is something that's on the horizon for you, it's something you're already thinking about, you don't need to wait a year till there's a deadline for applications for postgrads. So I just included typical links here that you would need to research postgrad study options. And you can use the time you have to do that earlier rather than later. One of the best ways to gain skills that we've mentioned in the last few slides is volunteering. Employers love to see students being active in the community, taking ownership of maybe fundraising or assisting in the community, various projects. One website we'd recommend here is studentvolunteer.ie. And again, just think long term how that activity, that experience can enrich you personally, but also help you in relation to an upcoming graduate interview where you can tell a story to illuminate the skills you got from that experience. So a little bit more information on studentvolunteer.ie. It allows you to browse opportunities, apply for volunteering opportunities, track your hours, etc. One of the most common skills that is lacking in the marketplace for individuals, not just graduates, for individuals in their careers, is the ability to communicate to a group. There's a lot of fear around this, and people who can get a handle on that fear, the butterflies don't perhaps go away completely, but the more you practice it, the more relaxed you will be. And believe me, trust me when I tell you, after 20 years in the market, if you can talk confidently to a group, it is going to be such an asset to you in the future. You can see here just an example. Limerick Toastmasters are now doing their activities online. This is a global organization, Toastmasters, and the whole purpose of relieving the fear of speaking to groups and learning how to do it in a safe environment with like-minded people who are after the same goal as you are. I would strongly suggest you take an opportunity, if you have the time, and log in and get in touch with your local Toastmasters group. So for those of you that have been active in UL clubs and societies, that will stand you very, very well in relation to graduate interviews. If you've joined some and you've kind of lapsed in the last year or so, or you feel, look, I could really do with something else on my CV, you still have time trying to balance that with your final year study when the semester starts by just logging in and looking at joining a club or society that you're interested in. But even furthermore than that, putting up your hand and taking ownership for some activity or some duties in the club or society where you can build the skills that we've talked about in this session. Okay, so we've come to near the end of our short online session in relation to building employability skills. So just to recap what we covered, we looked at the concept of employability, what it means, equals security, and it's a lifelong process for us all. It's not just about gaining your graduate job. We looked at the components that go into successful employability, self-efficacy, the right behavior at the right time, building your self-esteem and your confidence, and then that included the career edge model. So again, the career edge model would be your career knowledge, career development knowledge, your experience, work and life, the degree, your subject matter that you're studying at the moment, so your degree knowledge, generic skills, okay, and we went through those, and then finally emotional intelligence, which was the capacity for recognizing your own feelings, for motivating yourself, and for managing emotions in yourself well and in your relationships. Finally, we looked in detail at the skills that employers are looking for. We had a slide there in relation to job descriptions, how you could go out now and start looking at job descriptions for the discipline that you're studying for, and looking at the skills that they have. If you're thinking it early at this stage, or even contemplating postgrad study, you could do some desk research on that and find a little bit more. And then finally, how to acquire employability skills that you might be missing. And we talked about work and volunteering, Toastmasters, and UL clubs and societies. Okay, let's just finish with a little story in relation to the company, Apple, the tech company. There's Steve Jobs, one of its founder CEOs. Steve Jobs spoke at a Stanford University graduation about a decision to take a calligraphy class as a college student. He didn't really see the point of it, how he would use it, but he was just interested in it. And 10 years later, he was developing the first Apple Mac computer, and remembered that short course he did, and insisted on introducing a variety of fonts for the PCs that we use today. That had never been done before. Microsoft hadn't done it, and he attributes taking that short add-on skill with that breakthrough. So you just never know where things come into play. If you want to check out that speech, it's very, very famous. It's on YouTube, and I'd like to leave it there, and just to thank you for taking the time to review this online session in relation to building your employability skills. So hopefully that has given you the knowledge and detail required to make the changes that will positively affect you and improve your options upon graduation. Thanks very much.